I was an idiot and had an affair. It destroyed way more than my marriage. I was an idiot and had an affair. That part you'll believe. What happened next you'll find harder to believe, but it happened, just like I'm about to tell you. My name is Jason. I'm happily married, 16 years to Amanda. Not our names. To be honest, I'm happy most of the time. From the outside? Definitely, we're super happy, 3 great kids, daughters, 14 and 10, and son, 2. We're a good-looking, all-American suburban family, if I say so myself. One of the dads at the school drop-off joked to me that we're pillars of the community. I never set out to be a pillar, but it's a good feeling. Prior to marrying Amanda, I belonged to a different community. Nothing crazy or weird, like extreme sports or swingers parties or anything remotely criminal except for drugs. But it was definitely a lifestyle. I managed nightclubs. In fact, that's my work now. I'm a consultant for high-end restaurants. I usually work for rich owners, people with more money than God, who want to have a cool restaurant to brag about to their friends. Some place where they're king of the roost. But they don't know anything. So they pick a bad location, or a bad concept, or fall for a hustler who pitched them what they wanted to hear. So their projects turn to shit, but they're too prideful to cut bait, so they hire me. I'm like the wolf in Pulp Fiction, who cleans up the bloody messes. I love that movie. I come in, fire the dead wood, clean house, and get the thing back on its feet. Or I try my best. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I get paid, either way. I'm good at what I do. But I gotta say, the thrill is gone. There's something safe about the fact that it's not my money. I can go home to my family, knowing I'm able to support them. Safe was, at the time my first kid was born, exactly what I needed. Now, I'm not so sure. I just get so frustrated that it's not my name on the place. Am I falling for the same fantasy as my naive clients? Maybe. I thought I'd have my own hit club by now, probably several of them. But life intervened. My mentor, Rick, always warned me, running a club was like owning a dragon. A dragon is fun to show off, but they eat a ton, and if they're not fed on time, they eat you. So I gave up on my dream, in favor of reality, my family. Lately, though, my marriage? It's safe to say, that fire went out, about 3 children ago. It's the oldest story in the world. You meet, the chemistry is off the charts, you have sex in every room in the house. Things settle into a nice groove, but when that first baby is born, the party's over. It's fine, I don't have crazy appetites. I don't need threesomes or public sex or kink. The reason I don't need that. Did I mention I used to run nightclubs? In my early 20s, I'll spare you the graphic details. I was a good-looking guy with an important job at a happening place. The world was my oyster, and I had a lot of oysters. But that was half a lifetime ago. I got an invitation for a club opening or reopening that I wish I had never accepted. They were calling it the Junction, terrible name, but I knew it as the Bad Cat. It was where I first met my mentor, Rick, a bad influence, but a great boss. Back then, I was a recent college grad, a geo major, rocks for jocks. I went to school to play baseball until I blew out my elbow, and didn't want to get Tommy John surgery. After college, with no more pro ball dreams, and no backup plans, I just kinda drifted. My teammates were long gone, and my campus girlfriend moved across the country, so I picked a major metropolitan area, not gonna name it, that sounded cool, and moved there. I got a bartending job to pay the bills while I figured out my real career, where I met Rick. Rick wasn't much in person, short, scruffy, with a grating Boston accent. He had a sarcastic attitude, and an annoying habit of picking a nickname for each employee. He called me Homer, as in, a pitcher who gives up a lot of homers. I loathed him. But he was persistent and attentive, and I could see why women fell for him. He was like one of those rock stars who aren't good looking, but get tons of action because they're in a band. Rick was like a one-man band of his own. He taught me how to handle drinks at a bar and also drunks at a bar, haha. How to book music acts, manage a kitchen staff, handle investors, and, on a personal level, shop for clothes, pace yourself doing drugs, and juggle 3 girlfriends. I'm not proud. He became the dad I never had. My real dad is still around, a corporate middle manager, pretty square. He and I only bonded over sports. But Rick would just tell me straight up, "I love you, man." Don't underestimate how good that felt. "You're a good kid, Homer," he'd say. So when I got an invitation to visit Rick's old club, I'm not even sure how they found me, except that, from my work, I'm on a ton of mailing lists. I was feeling nostalgic. I wanted to take my wife, Amanda, so she could see this place where I had so many formative experiences. My wife, by the way, does not like the nightlife. I took her out one time with Rick and the gang. She spent 5 minutes among the party people and the drinking and the coke-fueled dancing, and said, "I'm going home. Call me if you ever grow up." I thought she was being a stick in the mud, and she insulted my friends. So we broke up for all of 24 hours. I had a random hookup, did the walk of shame from this poor woman's apartment, got home, showered, looked myself in the mirror. And I just said, "I'm never doing that again." I called Amanda, begged her to give me another shot, and thank God, she did. The nightlife, it turns out, was another dragon, just a beast to feed. It wasn't worth the thrills, which were mostly the same anyway. Who did I think I was, James Bond? Amanda fit all the Goldilocks criteria for me: cool, smart, beautiful, puts up with all my bullshit. I had a hunch she'd be a great mom, and she is. The two of us together, let me explain it this way: Rick and I always loved the insult comic, Don Rickles. He got away with his outrageous lines because he was, in truth, a super nice guy. You somehow knew he didn't really mean it. And Rickles was inseparable from his wife, Barbara. He respected her because, in private, she didn't take any shit. Amanda was my Barbara, solid as a rock. But there was just one little problem. Amanda never found Don Rickles funny. Amanda agreed to check out the club reopening, we got a sitter, and off we went. I was chomping at the bit to see my old stomping grounds. I'm not often nostalgic, but I was pumped: the sights, the smells, even that crappy tile floor in the kitchen. I had to tell myself, that stuff is probably gone. It was old back then, of course the new owner will have pulled it out. We turned into the parking lot, and my heart sank. The building's facade was completely different. The second I stepped inside, there was nothing left. We had gotten the babysitter, and driven an hour, for this? The new place was fine, they had good taste. But it was meaningless to me. Barren. And the people, I didn't know anybody. My mind was racing with all of the old pals and colleagues and customers and flirts, the regulars, waitstaff, cooks, bands, and drunks. All the human beings that make up a community. I had held out hope that at least one of them would still be here. But nope. I met the publicist who invited me. Her name was Delilah, short with curly hair, and that glad-handing energy that PR people have. I told her of my connection to the old place, and she said she just had to introduce me to her friend, Kendra, who did something with the interior redesign and also, it turned out, had some connection to Rick. At the sound of that name Rick, not Kendra, my wife froze up. She hated Rick. Only met him once, but thought he was the devil. He was a perfect gentleman to her, reported back that Amanda was a prince of abroad, and I should lock that down. He was almost melancholy about it, like he regretted his chaotic home life, multiple children with multiple women. I told Amanda what he said, and she grumbled, "That guy is poison, and he's not your friend." I was hurt. He was poison, but he truly was my friend. Tragically, Rick died, 9 years ago, in a murder-suicide. He had a girlfriend in the midst of yet another divorce who killed him, in a Phil Hartman type of situation. Terrible. We hadn't spoken his name since the funeral. Amanda didn't go to that, she was up to her neck with our second baby. The service was a weird scene of different wives and girlfriends and kids. I paid my respects, went home, hugged Amanda, and said, "I love you." Rick's dying had given me closure on that part of my life. I had no regrets about settling down because the other path, trying to act like a kid forever, only held death and destruction. So why I had been so insistent on bringing my wife, tonight? Maybe I was starting to feel my age. I had thrown out my back in the gym, and was feeling old. The club was full of young people, which only made me feel more old. After 20 minutes, we said our goodbyes to Delilah, but she mentioned there was one part of the building that was still intact from the old days, the office, in the basement, and would I like to see it? Hell yeah! I couldn't resist. The times, down there, the laughs. It was a real armpit of a room, with the stench of stale beer and Rick's cigars, but I had some memorable experiences in it. I asked my wife to come. She got halfway to the steps, and I could see on her face, no way. I didn't blame her. Why would she want to see some cramped old office where her husband had sleazy hookups? I said, babe, just let me take a look, and then we can get the hell out of here. She smiled and gave me a peck on the lips. I stepped downstairs and to the left, a path I had taken hundreds if not thousands of times. Let's see, 250 workdays a year, 5 times a day, 3 years? That's fair, 3,750. And I grinned. The desk and computer were different, the carpet had been ripped up, but the bones of the place, the creak of the steps, the spot where you had to duck your head around a support beam, it was just how I remembered it. I passed a milquetoast dude on his way out. I explained that I got my start in this room, a long time ago, and Delilah said it was okay to look around. He said sure, no problem. I stepped into the office, alone, soaked it up, and felt that bittersweet tinge of nostalgia. It was here, right here, where I had managed the emails. Yeah, we still had emails, it wasn't that long ago, done the books, placed the orders. To say nothing of the extracurricular activities, right there on, well, the couch was long gone, which was for the best. That was one filthy couch. I was struck by how small it seemed, like visiting your childhood bedroom. I don't believe in ghosts, but I understand their appeal. I felt like I was communing with another time, and another me. I felt like I could see Rick on that couch, puffing on a cigar, with his yellow teeth and crooked grin, spouting out a cockamamie theory about something or other, like a stand-up comic trying out a bit. I remembered one exchange we had. I hadn't thought about this in years. I asked why he spent so much time hanging out with young people. He said, in that blue-collar philosopher way, it makes me feel young. I said, you idiot, that'll only make you feel old. Go join the PTA. He looked at me and said, Homer, you got a point. I smiled at the memory. And that was that time to go. I said my private goodbye to this tiny place, and my ill-spent youth in it, turned to leave. And I ran right into her. She was standing in the doorway, wearing high heels and a red cocktail dress. My heart leapt out of my chest. I'm not going to describe her physical attributes. It'll sound cheesy and probably sexist. I like to consider myself a feminist, not just because I have 2 daughters, because I believe in it. Suffice it to say, with her chestnut hair and movie star good looks and the way she wore the tiny red dress, I was like, whoa. She was so good looking and so inviting, the way she instantly made eye contact, that my heart was pounding. She even smelled great. She asked, hey, can I look around? I said, sure, not my place. She grinned, what, you robbing the safe? I just mumbled the truth, no, I used to work here. She smiled broadly, no way. When? We compared notes. She had worked for the owner right after Rick's group and met Rick once, in passing. She asked about my time here. She had heard some wild stories, and I guess I was feeling defensive, because I said, mostly it was a shit ton of paperwork. This was true. Martha, our office lady, had a summer from hell, with her husband diagnosed with colon cancer. Rick kept her on the payroll, out of loyalty, and grabbed me from the dish room to help with the books. He saw something in me, the college boy, and in doing so, started my career. She gasped, wait a minute, are you Jason? I'd been dying to meet you. Now I was like, what is going on here? It turned out, she was the woman that Delilah wanted me to meet, Kendra. She got so close to me, I was trying to force myself not to glance at her chest, talking so enthusiastically. I don't think I heard a word she said. Something like, she had heard about me through a friend of a friend, and wanted to hire me to help open her own place? Yeah, that was it. She had scraped together some investment, and would I consider working for her? She was offering me a job. If only I had done the smart thing, said, no, thanks, I'm not looking to work in the city too long a commute. Or made any number of any excuses. Because, the real reason, you moron, you're married, and clearly you want to have sex with this woman, and the longer you spend around her, the more you are going to threaten your family, the one thing in your life you swore you would never jeopardize. But did I listen to my better angel? No, like an idiot, I succumbed to the devil, the trickster, on my other shoulder. It's just business. We exchanged numbers and I said I'd try to help. I had the perfect justification. I was being a good guy. What kind of dick would turn her down just because I had a problem with finding her attractive? Women shouldn't have to deal with their looks or lack of looks getting in the way of their hopes and dreams, right? I told myself, just pretend she's an ugly middle-aged dude and treat her the same way. And I did. Or tried to, anyway. I'll admit, I snuck a look at her ass on the way out. It was great. I went back upstairs, found my wife, and we went straight home. Getting ready for bed, I tried to initiate sex, but Amanda was exhausted from our 2-year-old giving her a hard time. I said, forget it, and we went to sleep. Kendra and I started an affair. That was so predictable, I'm really embarrassed. She texted me to meet at a space she wanted to lease for a restaurant. I figured, okay, do your due diligence, maybe it'll be a good gig? We met in this large, cavernous building downtown that she liked. I was hoping it would be a non-starter, so I could mansplain all the reasons why it wouldn't work and be done. But it was pretty good. A choice location, nice space, with a logical layout for the bar and kitchen. I could see it in my head. The only drawback was that it was expensive, but that was a good sign, it was in demand. She wore red, again, but a different outfit. She had a great sense of style. I was determined not to flirt, but she started, and I responded with some of Rick's ancient wisecracks. The thing that really turned me on. She laughed at my jokes. All of Rick's sarcastic comments and low-bow gags that my wife had poo-pooed for so long, not only did Kendra laugh at them, but she made me laugh. She had a real wit. I thought, you have to be kidding, dream girl. Only, I had married my dream girl. Or so I had thought. Know that old Paul Newman line? Why go out for hamburger when you can have steak at home? That was my mantra. I heard it from Rick, who mocked it, fuck that. Who wants the same thing night after night, no matter how good it is? I have to admit, he had a point. 18 years of sirloin, and suddenly you get the choicest cut of bluefin sushi from a master chef? Who could resist? No, we didn't have sex that first night. I'm not that idiotic and she wasn't that fast. But I was enough of a dummy to go with her to a nearby restaurant, under the guise of scoping out the competition. A few drinks later, her impossibly cute smile and perfect body. I walked her to her car, our eyes met, the moment was there, and we kissed. She knew I was married, she had seen my wife, at the party. We stopped, and she said, if this is gonna fuck up your life, let's not. This only made me want her more, that she was funny, and hot, and reasonable. I said, I have 3 kids. She said, I'm sorry, disappointed, but empathetic. We sort of pretended it never happened, but we both knew that was bullshit. I got home and found it easier than I expected to just pretend it never happened. I told Amanda the partial truth. I had met the female client and it was a promising gig. I didn't say that it was the woman in the red dress at the party. Amanda had noticed her and sniped. I remember when I had that much time for the gym. I had gotten off scot-free, but I couldn't stop thinking about Kendra. I almost texted her, but deleted it before I could do anything stupid. But she texted me, my heart jumped when it came in. She invited me to her office to go over paperwork for the restaurant and give me a down payment on my employment. Again, I rationalized, just business. It's good money. Besides, nothing really happened, right? It turns out, her office was just a laptop in a really nice condo where she was house-sitting for some friend in Europe, around 10 feet from her bed. Yeah, we had sex. It was fabulous. I had been with my wife for so long that I just completely forgot what it was like for things to be so easy. I'm not going to elaborate. This isn't the Penthouse Letters column. But when you're with someone, you adjust to what they like. If you're lucky, it's good. But there are always compromises. Inevitably, a certain sameness sets in. First we do this, then that, then maybe this. If the kids are out we can do this, too, and then, done. The things that you like that your partner doesn't? You just sort of pack them away as something you can learn to live without. And damn! Like a drug, that first hit, that first encounter, for me it all came rushing back. Not just the physical thrills, but the feelings, the sense of devouring the person. The sense that anything is possible, and somebody will take care of you. It was the best sex of my life. From then on, Kendra and I met up for work maybe once or twice a week. We did, in fact, do a little work. But the restaurant space she wanted was soon rented by someone else. After a few weeks, we didn't even pretend anymore. Covering it up was like taking candy from a baby. My wife was so completely trusting because, in 18 years, I hadn't given her the slightest cause to worry. Besides, she had her hands full. Our 2-year-old, Calvin, was late hitting milestones. But we could never get any kind of diagnosis. He definitely needed glasses, not easy to put on a toddler, but other than that. It was confusing, and the longer it went on, the more upsetting it became. Don't worry, they said. He'll catch up. But he didn't. Update, a year later and we still don't know what's wrong, and that is the most awful feeling in the world, that you can't help your kid. He had been something of a miracle baby, conceived on the very last round of IVF the doctor was willing to try. But in hindsight, nothing in this life comes free. Our girls, Jenny and Nikki, they're superstars. Bright, popular, easygoing. They've entered the years of sass and bloom, as Amanda puts it, but I get along with them. They give her a hard time, and Amanda criticizes me for being the good cop, making her the bad cop. I would have been fine with just the girls, but my wife found herself drifting. She has a home business, basically Etsy shit, pillows and jams and artsy-fartsy knickknacks. She likes it, and it's a good side hustle. As she hit her late 30s, she found herself longing for another baby, even though I remember us both saying, when we got rid of the diaper genie, never again. She also got it into her head that she really wanted a boy, like it was a gift for me. She wanted me to have all those dad-son experiences that were my only happy memories with my old man, all of them involving sports. I should have told her the truth, I didn't want it. I remembered the lengths my dad went to for my sports career, hours squatting with a catcher's mitt as I pretend pitched against my favorite big league lineups. Also, what, I could be a mediocre college player. No, having girls was great, I could drop them off at ballet and not have to spend all that time hauling ball bags to practices. But Amanda wanted a boy, I thought it would make her happy, and after 3 rounds of full-on IVF at 15 kA pop, lo and behold, we had a boy. Only, who knows what's wrong with him? Amanda doesn't want to put him into daycare, meaning she doesn't have much time for her business. She's exhausted all the time, without making money, so I have to earn it all. Know who I vented all this to? No, not my wife, to Kendra. And she really listened. It felt great. I hadn't been able to share my real feelings for, I don't know, maybe since before we started trying for the 3rd kid? I used to talk this way with Rick, when we were doing that I love you, man drunk shtick. But maybe, I can honestly say no, not ever. Was I falling in love with my mistress from an idiotic affair? Oh, man. I started to get careless. I had a close call with, of all things, a lie about the gas tank, why it had gotten so low if all I did was go a few blocks. I made up some bullshit about a change of plans and Amanda bought it. Getting away with it only emboldened me. I was not a fool about the risk. My parents had divorced when I was 12, and it was a gut punch. They didn't even have a super nasty split, but it was like the universe screamed at me, "Fuck you, kid. You can't trust anyone." So when I got married, I was in it, for real. But these past weeks, I found myself thinking, if we split up, it wouldn't be so bad, would it? The kids would just adjust, just like I did. Don't I deserve to be happy? I remember my dad lamely saying the same thing. I used to interrogate my parents about their divorce. There were many reasons, but it came down to my mom was nuts, and my dad was a dick. I agonized over ending things while I still could, but the physical thrills of Kendra weren't subsiding. If anything, they were getting more intense. It was in the middle of one of those encounters that something insane happened. I don't believe in ghosts or God or the afterlife or anything. I am 100% a stone-cold atheist. The paranormal always seemed like the biggest pile of horseshit. Whether it was psychics or ghosts or everything happens for a reason, my mom's mantra, I've had nothing but contempt for all that shit. Until it happened to me. The first time was at Kendra's place. We were going to have sex in the shower, but didn't even make it that far. The water was warming up, took forever, and we went at it right there at the bathroom sink. The mirror was starting to fog, and I'm a guy, I'm visual, so I checked out our reflection. And I could swear she had a different face in the mirror than in real life. I looked again, it was true, and it was so freaky, I had to stop. What the fuck? I started to get lightheaded. Maybe it was the glass of wine I had on an empty stomach, or I was coming down with something? Kendra attended to me, so caring, and her reflection went back to normal. So, I just wrote it off. We did pick back up our session, and had sex in the shower. When I got home, I had been 2 hours late, and Amanda is not dumb. She demanded to know where I was, and thank God, I had planned ahead. I had exchanged some pretend emails with my pal Phil about his car breaking down. He covered for me, though he sure sounded uncomfortable. Amanda bought it, but she knew something was off. Like an idiot, I carried on with Kendra a few more weeks. But just when I thought it would be alright, that I could get away with it, I saw that other face again. At first, it was her reflection in a car window. Just a fleeting glance, and when I stopped to look closely, it reverted to normal. But it happened a third time, then a fourth. No longer just in reflections, but in my peripheral vision, which is super annoying, because you can never square it up. I tried to memorize the fleeting details of this other woman, thinking it must be a celebrity or somebody I had known, my brain playing tricks on me. This fake Kendra was older, not as attractive to me, anyway, and she always seemed to be a little sad. One afternoon, lying in bed, it happened to me straight on. We were cuddling, and suddenly she became this totally other woman. I stared at her, so it wouldn't go away. I told her what I was seeing. She wasn't upset or mean, but became quite concerned. She asked me if I had any history of mental illness. That freaked me out. The answer is no. I tried to walk it back, by which point, she had reverted to real Kendra. I somehow didn't see the change, it just happened. I drove home in a daze, where my 14-year-old, Jenny, scared the shit out of me. "Dad, are you and Mom happy?" I was taken aback, of course. Why would you even ask that? She's always been perceptive. She said something about how hard it was for Mom to take care of Calvin, our toddler, and how hard it must be for me to work all the time to support us, and she had a friend whose parents just got divorced. I hedged an answer about marriages having their ups and downs, and she started to cry. She was really scared, and that hit me right in the heart. It made me value this family that we had created. Our family. My family. What was I thinking? I was going to jeopardize this, my flesh and blood, for some adolescent thrills? Going out for hamburger when I had steak at home? I texted Kendra that we needed to talk. I think she was beginning to sense this was coming, or maybe she felt the same way. She quickly agreed, and suggested a coffee shop. We almost never met in public outside of those first work outings, so this was clearly going to be the breakup meeting. Great. We'll end it, like adults, go our separate ways, and live to tell the tale. What could go wrong? I showed up at Pete's Coffee. Imagine my surprise when it wasn't Kendra. It was the other Kendra. The fake Kendra. I stared at her. She started her breakup speech, but I just gaped. She snapped, "What's wrong with you?" I was speechless. She was this other woman to me, clearer than I had ever seen before. And yet, she was wearing Kendra's jacket and clothes. So who was she, really? "Jason," she barked. "Are you fucking high?" I explained what I was seeing and she rolled her eyes, in no mood. I asked for her driver's license. I had to know who she truly was. "I'm not showing you my fucking driver's license," she groaned. She started yammering, I don't even know about what, and I just kept replaying in my mind, real Kendra, fake Kendra, who is she? What was happening to her, and to me? Wait, what was she saying now? She was pitching me on a space for a restaurant. "I need to lock it down," she said. "Can you loan me 50 grand? Or even 10 or 20? My mouth hung open. What in the living hell? No. Think about it, it'll be the best cover for you, we're in business. I bolted to my feet, "You're crazy." She said, "Sit down, don't cause a scene." And yeah, people were starting to look. She called me a childish asshole. My head started to race, no longer about the fake real Kendra, but about the new reality that I was being blackmailed. Is my marriage worth 50 grand? Okay, I can get 50 grand. Except I couldn't. Not without Amanda finding out. What do I do? Try to convince my wife that this was a good investment. She never wanted to open a restaurant before, why now? No, this was madness. I was not going to get extorted. What did Kendra or whoever she was have on me, anyway? No dick pics, but text messages? Yeah, tons. I deleted mine, methodically, but she still had hers. Yeah, she had me over a barrel. I waited, what if I just leave Amanda? People get divorced all the time. But then I thought, in favor of this crazy woman, blackmailing me? I couldn't stand it. I saw her lips moving, but I couldn't tell you a single word she said. When the strangest thing happened. As I looked at fake Kendra, who was getting pissed off, going from scolding to desperation to whining, she morphed into real Kendra. You know, morph, like that effect in movies? And then back again. She was phasing, vibrating, between two different women. It scared the living shit out of me. I looked around, but nobody else seemed to notice. So now I'm back to thinking, forget the blackmail. Do I have adult onset schizophrenia? What is wrong with me? Jason, she snapped, and her appearance stuck. Now, as fake Kendra, sleep on it, but be reasonable. I said fine, excused myself, and drove straight home. But not before, sitting in my car in the parking lot, I read every single WebMD and Wikipedia page about schizophrenia I could find. None of which were helpful. The next few weeks were hell on earth. It was like, this is why we don't have affairs. It wasn't that she texted me constantly. She only reached out a little bit, sometimes with designs and business specs for her restaurant, little passive-aggressive hints. Other times she sent personal messages that reeked of desperation, how I was the only person who's there for her, who sees her vision, yada yada yada. She didn't call our house, because we had long ago gotten rid of our landline But I lived in terror that any minute now, she'd show up, ambush my wife at the grocery store, talk to my kids at school. It reminded me of when I threw out my back, the constant pain, the way there's never an escape. Sit, stand, lie down, walk, doesn't matter, it's all agony. Sometimes I'd have a normal day, But then, like that first morning you wake up after somebody dies or something terrible happened, you remember all over again. Sickening. At least I wasn't seeing things anymore. Those hallucinations of fake Kendra I had pushed far out of my mind until I realized one day, maybe I should check myself, somehow. I didn't have any photos of her, I wasn't that stupid, but I knew she had an Instagram page. So I looked it up, wondering, would I see real Kendra, or fake Kendra? I loaded the app. She looked like fake Kendra. I wondered what that meant. Was fake Kendra, in fact, the real Kendra? Was I somehow under some kind of spell? The victim of a hallucinogen? Had she been drugging me? I turned it over in my mind, not only how to get out of the blackmail, but what the heck was wrong with my brain. By now I was living such a lie with my family, I was an utter zombie. My daughter called me out at the dinner table, "Dad, what's wrong with you?" I looked at her and deadpanned, "It's my kids, they're too nosy." They laughed. Remember Rickles? My kids knew I loved them, so I could tease them. Just finding the humor in the situation made me think of something I hadn't in a long time, and not something, but someone, Rick. Rick was always getting himself into chicken shit soap opera love triangles. He'd be separated from his wife, involved with a girlfriend, and then he would start flirting with a waitress. There was one waitress I never forgot, Sheila. It was hard not to notice Sheila. Rick liked to boast about her gravity-defying breasts. Apologies. Rick was so taken by her innocence, he didn't lay a hand on her. Instead, he offered to teach her about management, the way he had with me. We were all shocked. We asked him what was going on. "She's too perfect to deflower," he said, insisting it was purely platonic. Then his third wife found out about all the time they were spending together. She was a tough customer. She'd come in gunning for Rick, and before you could even say something, she'd bark, "Don't lie to me, you little fucker. Spit it out." So his wife was absolutely convinced Rick was having a fling with Sheila. He wasn't. Even Sheila had asked me, "Hey, what's up with Rick? Does he like me?" She knew his marriage was on the rocks, but didn't want to make the first move. So, the punchline, what did Rick do? Then he had sex with Sheila. His logic was impeccable. If I'm going to get blamed for it, I might as well do it. I told this to Kendra once. It's not the kind of thing women find funny. My wife certainly wouldn't. But I thought she might. Kendra turned glum, she said it sounded mean. I agreed with her. One night after dinner, I was home with my wife and kids. I was in my office doing work, one of those blissful times when I forgot about all the drama. I heard the doorbell, and assumed it was the usual Girl Scouts or solar panel salesman or Jehovah's Witnesses. Jenny came to get me. "Dad, there's some lady at the door for you." Gulp. Yeah, it was Kendra. Not fake Kendra. Real Kendra. She looked ravishing, but in that moment, you'd forgive me for thinking she looked like the devil incarnate. Oh my God. What do I do? My wife came over from the kitchen, she'd been cleaning up. "Oh, this is Kendra," I mumbled. "I've been working with her on a project." Kendra played along. "I'm so sorry to bother you, it's an emergency." I stepped outside, barefoot, looking back to my wife. "We're just gonna figure this out." I walked with her down to her car. She apologized for coming to my house. I was beside myself. "Then don't do it, for Christ's sake." She reiterated that she really needed 50 grand to put this behind us. I said I didn't have it, and she called that out as a bullshit lie. I started to explain that I'd need my wife to sign off on that kind of money, true, and no way was that going to happen after this house call. "You think I married an idiot?" Kendra seemed consumed by rage and bitterness. She said she wanted to show me something, and pulled a handgun out of her bag. That was the scariest thing to that point that had ever happened to me. Everything flashed before my eyes, my life. My wife. My kids. Right here in the house. what do? Grab it, and maybe risk it going off? I don't know shit about guns. She put it away, said she didn't mean it as a threat, it was just in case, because she's been so stressed lately. Yeah, like that made it okay. The next thing I knew, the words flew out of my mouth, I'll get the money. She sighed, relieved, muttered, thanks, walked around to get in the car, and drove off. I stayed outside to get my shit together. How do I spin this? As I walked back to the house, Jenny opened up the door. Dad, who is she? She seemed so innocent. Did she see the whole thing? I said, oh, just a client, she's super stressed out. My wife eyed me from the kitchen, if looks could kill. We waited until the kids went to bed. My wife has always been practical. Then, in our room, yeah, she walked in, the hangman, carrying a noose. I braced for the explosion, but she stayed so cool. That really pissed me off. I understood how furious she should have been. But she didn't give me the common courtesy of a single human emotion. No tears. Nothing. She was an ice-cold prosecutor, the absences, my distracted texting, the way it started when we met that woman at the nightclub opening. She said all she wanted was the truth. We can work with the truth. Total lie. This was a cop trying to get me to confess and then hang me with it. So I did something I didn't think I was capable of, I lied. About all of it. Deny. I didn't try to gaslight her, she was way too smart for that. If you make up shit that's fake, you can get caught in a lie. So I kept it simple, no matter how illogical, deny. It was ludicrous, but my best play. As in, if I was going to make up a story, would it be as stupid as this? There's nothing going on. I'm sure she didn't believe a word. But I had to try, for the sake of our marriage. I stonewalled her to the point where I was almost giggling, which made me look guilty as hell, but I stuck to my preposterous story. She finally gave up. But afterwards, I heard her crying in the bathroom. Coming to bed, she gave me nothing. I still had a huge fucking problem, though. Where was I going to get all that money? Continued in comments. Part 3. I went home, bit the bullet, and told my wife the whole 100 truth again, without the face switching. She said, of course she knew I was lying before. She said I had reminded her of that episode of The Sopranos. We love that show where Tony catches Paulie in a lie, and takes him out on a boat to whack him, but Paulie just completely refuses to admit he did the thing that Tony absolutely knew he did. And somehow, Paulie's complete obstinance in repeating the lie convinces Tony that Paulie will be loyal and trustworthy, so he lets him live. Would Amanda let me live? Or, at least, stay in the house? I asked, meekly, do you want me to go to a hotel? She went completely blank, just put that in her back pocket. Total shutdown, cold shoulder, the ice queen. Damn, she always knew how to hurt me. Crying, screaming, throwing shit, those I could deal with. But my wife turning into an android? For that, I had no defense. She had her high ground, and she was going to bleed me, then torture me, then finally kill me, in her own, ruthless, android way. She listened to my confession, then went back to cleaning up after dinner like nothing had happened. I offered to sleep on the couch, but she just said, I don't care. So I stayed in our room for the sake of the kids. The next few days went like that. Kendra didn't die, incidentally. Delilah kept me abreast of the news, which she got from Kendra's parents. She was in a coma for a week, then began an arduous recovery. The last I heard, she was dealing with major brain damage, so I never found out more about the him she mentioned. Although I'm pretty sure I know who it was, keep reading. For my part, I didn't have any more visions. I did have flashbacks to Kendra blowing her head off and barely missing, and all her blood and brains. But they say if you have a healthy upbringing, you can withstand a traumatic event. It's the sustained trauma that damages you, neglect, abuse, things like that. So I actually didn't have nearly the kind of PTSD I expected. I slept fine. It was still unclear to me what the kids knew. I just told them that a friend from work had tried to kill herself, and she's in the hospital. Amanda didn't contradict me. Life with my spousal android judge, jury, and executioner went on for 2 weeks. Finally, it was early afternoon, we were both home, the older girls were out doing after-school activities, and Calvin was down for a nap. Amanda was folding the laundry at the table when I walked past. She snapped at me that I had put a certain sweater in the dryer, a mistake I had made before, even though I had checked the label and it was fine. I grunted, "What the fuck difference does it make?" She looked at me with utter contempt, her eyes popped out of her head, and yeah, it was on. She threw the laundry basket at me, and I threw it right back. We started shouting, screaming, pushing, throwing things. It was an epic marital brawl. The fight wasn't just about the affair, it was 18 years of dry brush going up in a wildfire. Everything that we loathed about each other, that had annoyed the shit out of each other, that built up over time, that we had never even begun to reckon with, it exploded into a fireball of raging contempt. That's the one word that kills marriages, contempt. When you have contempt for your partner, there's no way back from that. To me, she was a withholding pain in the ass, a scold, never happy, a goddamn martyr with the kids and the housework. To her, I was an abandoner, pouring myself into my work when the whole reason I had done consulting instead of owning a restaurant was that it left me time for my family. She screamed, "You had to keep chasing the money." Money, I reminded her, that went to us, to the family. It was trench warfare and recriminations, but in a perverse way, I liked it. They say never wrestle with a pig, because you both get dirty and the pig likes it. Well, I was the pig. And I loved it. It brought her down into the mud and filth, with me. The fight woke up Calvin, and thank God he was still in a crib, or else he would have come into the kitchen where, by now, we were literally throwing dishes at each other. She screamed at me, "Get out! I want you out of here!" I yelled back, "Fucking make me!" She rushed at me, fists clenched, to hit me, but that was a bridge too far. I don't know what came over me, but I grabbed her and tried to kiss her. I wanted that make-up sex so bad. But she slapped me across the face and ran off to get Calvin. I ran upstairs into our bedroom, thinking I'd pack my bags and get out of here right then and there. When I stumbled. Not because I was changing my mind, but because something inexplicable was happening to my body. There was tingling in my fingers, numbness in my toes. My hair felt like it sat on my head differently. It was like my whole body felt off, disproportionate, wrong. I staggered into the bathroom and looked in the mirror. It wasn't my own face staring back at me. It was Rick. I saw myself as Rick. I felt like I was going to vomit. I was staring at myself in the mirror, and seeing Rick, a face I had not seen for 18 years. I was now the same age he had been. Maybe older. I fell to the toilet, thinking I would throw up, but nothing came out. I could hear Rick's own words, echoing in my head, "You've partied too hard, dude, time to pay the piper. Shut up, shut up, shut up." I pushed Rick and his toxic voice as far out of my mind as I could. I stood up, heart in my throat, checked the mirror again for my reflection. And I was normal, thank God. But this had happened, it had really happened. Amanda came in to yell at me some more, and saw me white as a ghost. Before she opened her mouth, I held up my hands, "I'm sick." She let me say my piece. I confessed everything, for the first time, about how I had been seeing real Kendra and fake Kendra, and now Rick, and thought I was losing my mind. I begged her to believe me, and God bless her, she did. Or, I should say, I'm sure she didn't believe me. But she seemed to believe that I thought I was telling the truth. Like me, she was way too rational to believe in ghosts or possession or any of that ridiculous bullshit. She asked about any other symptoms I might be having. I think she was almost soothed by my problem. If I was mentally ill, that would explain why I had strayed. I said I have to see a psychiatrist or a neurologist, I'm fucked up. I'm so sorry. She said I could stay at home, for for now, but she warned me, if there was ever the slightest outburst, or rude remark, or anything fishy anywhere near the kids, ever. I just called Tina her best friend and told her the whole fucking story. It's called a contemporaneous account, and if you ever fuck with me, I'll destroy you in court. That's my wife, super smart. It actually made me feel better. Like I could trust her. The kids came home, and we did our best to pretend nothing had happened. We had cleaned up the house, as best we could. I'm sure Jenny didn't buy it, but she just went to her room to watch TikTok or whatever she does. Nikki seemed more worried, but I told her everything would be fine, and she's such a sweetie and gullible, she bought it. I was determined to save my family. I love my kids so much. First, I had to figure out what was happening to me. If it was mental illness, I was fucked, and in that case, it would probably be best to leave to spare them the danger. But if it was something else, like one of those wackadoo superstitious things that I didn't believe, maybe I could find out what, and cure it, somehow. I said to myself, okay, let's use reason. Why did I know? What were the facts? I had been in a huge fight with my wife and had seen myself as Rick in the mirror. Rick had been my mentor, my role model. And I had witnessed him in similar screaming matches with his wives and girlfriends. He used to joke that he could sell tickets. So I was just doing what I had learned from him. Come to think of it, I felt like I really was hearing his voice in my head. I had been having dreams, recently, of being back in the club, and trying to get all the paperwork done in that basement office. Whoa, was I possessed? Was Rick's spirit, or ghost, somehow influencing me? Taking me over? No, let's be rational, I was just imagining it. So, in review, I was seeing myself as my dead mentor. Fine. Obviously, this meant I had some kind of psychological condition. What else was I seeing? Kendra, the whole fake Kendra real Kendra thing. Only it turns out the fake Kendra had actually been the real woman. The real Kendra, the one I had thought I was sleeping with, had been a figment of my imagination. Unless she wasn't. Suddenly, I saw a different scene in my head, Kendra fighting, but not with me, with Rick. Yes. That's it. I did know her, even if I never met her. Like she said, she had briefly known Rick. She had been Rick's girlfriend at the time of. And suddenly I gasped. I realized, the woman who had murdered Rick, and then killed herself, I think her name was Michelle? I had never seen a picture of her. Oh, God, I thought to myself. No way. I fiddled online for all of 30 seconds and found a GoFundMe left over from the Mistress murderer Michelle's funeral expenses. Yeah, that Michelle, Rick's killer? She was my mistress, real Kendra. Holy fucking shit. So it was like the two of them, their hideous relationship of nuclear war and make-up sex, had leapt out of the grave to inhabit the two of us. They say that all couples only have the same fight over and over. From experience, I believe it. But somehow we were channeling their fight. As Keanu would say, whoa. Concluded in Part 4. Part 4. Before bed, I showed Michelle's GoFundMe to Amanda. She had no interest in my discovery. She told me she had consulted a divorce lawyer. She decided she wanted me gone, and that was final. We'd tell the kids tomorrow, and if it came to it, and I refused to leave, then she would take the kids to Tina's house, and I'd be in even deeper shit. I begged her to give me one last chance, but she just snapped at me, why should I? And I told her, because I loved her. I apologized. I went down to my knees. It was spontaneous, and utterly sincere. I meant every word, how much I loved her, that she was the only one for me, that marrying her was the best thing I ever did, that I loved the kids more than life itself. It was all true. The emotion just poured out of me, and I could see her start to buckle. I told her that I wasn't raised to know how to give and receive love. I know, it sounds corny, but that was the truth. We had learned the lingo from a reality TV show. The only love I had ever gotten in my life, prior to Amanda, was from Rick, but it was demented. I didn't know how to trust, to be vulnerable. So I had never really shown myself to Amanda, because I was so afraid. I told her that, and I really felt it. I broke down in sobs and wails. And it moved her, I think it really did. She actually touched my shoulder, for comfort. Like this was something she had been waiting years for me to do, that I never did, and now that I had, she was full of gratitude. But was it too late? I never thought she'd forgive me, I had almost given up. It seemed so unlike her, that when she seemed to soften, just a bit, my heart just surged. I kissed her. I braced myself for another slap across the face, but she looked into my eyes, and suddenly, she was that beautiful young woman with whom I had fallen in love, and built a life. She kissed me back, so out of character for her, but I was so desperate, I bought it. We moved to the bed and had the hottest, best, most incredible makeup sex of all time. Whatever description you might want for the first hit of heroin, or winning $1 billion lotto, or any overpowering hit of dopamine, this was more than that. We locked the door and went at it like newlyweds. I was lost in ecstasy, just thinking, thank God, everything's going to be okay. When, in the middle of sex, I looked over to the mirrored sliding doors on the closet. We hadn't designed the room this way, the cheesy mirrors were from the previous owner, but it was kind of hot that you could check yourselves out, in the act. I thought I would have a heart attack from what I saw. Our faces, pasted onto our bodies, were those of Rick and Kendra. I pulled off of Amanda. She asked what was wrong and I told her, we were turning into them. We were becoming the toxic couple. Then I looked at her, and she was Kendra. Her face, body, down to the birthmark on her neck. I wasn't imagining this. Oh my God, I thought. I'm fucked. I brought it home, whatever this is, the spirit or curse or ghost, I brought it into my house, and into my dear wife. The two of them, the spirits, whoever they were, had killed Michelle and Rick years ago. Then they had almost killed my mistress, Kendra. Now, Amanda and I had enacted their same cycle under our own roof, nuclear war, and crazy makeup sex. If we stayed like this, would they kill us, too? We had kids here. I started to say, but you're not, and she covered my mouth, she didn't want to hear it. We finished the sex and lay there for a cuddle. I was so tempted to just go with it, but I had to protect my family. I said, I need to leave. I was worried what might happen. A murderer's suicide was one thing, but a family annihilation. It was unthinkable. I have to go, I repeated, and tried to get up. But she held my arm, she still looked like Kendra to me, and said, wasn't it good for you? Come on, baby, you want this. I said, full of fear, I want my wife. She smiled, sweetly, and transformed back into Amanda. And what Amanda said gave me chills. I can be anyone you want me to be. I bolted out of bed. Checked myself in the mirror, I was Rick. Yes, I was Rick, and she was Kendra. I mean, Michelle? No, now she was back to Amanda. What is going on? We both seemed to vibrate, morph into these different, terrible, toxic people. I yelled. I closed my eyes, tried to make it all stop. I opened my eyes. She was Amanda, again. And I was myself, in the closet mirror. I told her I was afraid I was sick in the head, that we were dangerous together, and for the good of the kids, I needed to leave. She nodded, sadly practical again, and I packed an overnight bag for a hotel. It was 10 p.m., but we summoned Jenny and Nikki to the living room. They knew this was bad news, and started to tell them. Jenny had suspected I was having an affair, and Amanda blurted out, yes, and he's sorry. The kids started to bawl, which turned into picking sides. Jenny took Amanda's, while Nikki took mine as expected. I told them there was more going on, and it was bad. I was starting to see things, and I needed to be evaluated for some kind of mental illness. Now, breaking up the family was one thing, but that their dad might be schizophrenic? Out came the waterworks all over again. I looked over at Amanda. She wasn't crying, but I could tell this was crushing her. The kids threw themselves on us, begged me to stay. All four of us were bawling now. And I couldn't bear it anymore, so I changed my mind. I said, no, I think I can manage it. I want to stay, if Mom will allow it. I looked at Amanda. She blenched. Here was our pattern. I was being the good cop, which made her into the bad cop. But I doubled down. I want to keep this family together, whatever it takes. And Amanda nodded. She agreed. I'd see a neurologist as soon as possible, but I'd stay. Now the tears were tears of joy and relief, and the kids hugged me, and we all started to sob together. We were a family. We loved each other. The kids excused themselves, and Amanda and I just looked at each other, in shock for what we had been through. We held each other for a long time. The days ahead were good. Really good, actually. Amanda and I booked a couples therapy session. The first appointment went super well. I'll take credit for that. Because we all know, women are good at talking. Men are the problem. So I figured if I could do my part, of course I could count on my wife. And I stopped having the visions, if we can call them that, of Rick and Kendra Michelle. We started to talk about them as code words for the angry parts of ourselves. When we started to feel defensive, and pick on each other, and fall back onto old patterns, we called it being Rick and Kendra. We liked the therapist, and I think she liked us, but we didn't have the guts to tell her that Rick and Kendra were more than just metaphors. I think Amanda was embarrassed, and starting to doubt it herself. In fact, she never acknowledged the truth again. This worried me. I was terrified that Rick and Kendra were hiding themselves, burrowing deeper into our psyches. And soon it would be impossible to get them out if it wasn't already. Our boy, Calvin, kept missing his milestones, which in a way brought us closer, but it was scary and depressing. To think that our blood, our love, could have hurt this poor little kid, and made his life challenging? It was really painful. But what can you do, except try to go on? Our sex life recovered, and was pretty great, actually. I made a point never again to look in those cheesy bedroom mirrors. I'd soon get them removed. I didn't tell Amanda, but I did catch her staring, one time, which was something she never used to do. She was always shy about her body. I was afraid to ask what she was seeing. And I was even more afraid to look myself. I was sure I would see not us, but our hidden demons, Rick and Kendra. One night, we were having amazing sex, and I caught her staring, long and hard, but I didn't say anything about it. My gaze wandered over there, too, and as the reflection barely came into focus, I closed my eyes. I didn't want to know. Part 2. I squeezed together $10,000. I figured that would be a good faith down payment, and researched the space she wanted to rent. Maybe it was viable? That would be the ideal solution. I knew investors, and could set it up for real. The problem is that it would look exactly like what it was, a guy trying to throw a bone to his girlfriend. They were sexist and wouldn't buy her, so I'd have to shove her aside to actually run the business, which, for her, would defeat the purpose. This was crazy. I'd save my marriage by sacrificing my career. But I would start with $10,000 and live to fight another day. I cleared a believable, daylight hours time to go over to her place. Oh, the real Kendra, fake Kendra thing? I didn't give a shit anymore. She met me at the door, and she looked like the real Kendra. She was in one of her "you totally wanna fuck me" outfits, and I sort of sighed. Great, this is how it's going to be. I took 2 steps in and saw on the kitchen counter her gun. It's not even loaded. Don't be a pussy, she said, feeling her power. I gave her the cashier's check for 10, but she wasn't impressed. Accused me right away of dicking her around. I pleaded, be reasonable. She grinned and said, sure. She kissed me, reached around and grabbed my ass like we were still involved. I twisted away from her, but my heart wasn't in it. The truth was, I was falling back into the cycle I knew all too well from girlfriends back in the Rick era. fight and make up sex, rinse and repeat. Amanda and I never did that. We almost never fought, come to think of it. We were more like business partners, the co-owners of a non-profit, child-rearing operation. Sex was something to be scheduled and dutifully performed. But back in the day, I followed Rick's pattern with his own girlfriends, nuclear war followed by the hottest, most intense, most all-encompassing make-up sex of your life. Wait a minute, which girlfriend was that? Debbie? Tina? Here I was making out with Kendra, and I'm daydreaming about these long-forgotten flings from 2 decades ago. Why was I doing that? And also, was Kendra yelling at me? And was I yelling back? Yes. We were in some sort of fight. A screaming match. She was calling me all sorts of names, a loser and an asshole, and I was screaming back at her. The next thing I knew, we were tearing each other's clothes off. We tried to do it right there on the kitchen table, but it was totally uncomfortable. So we moved to the bedroom. We had sex, it was thrilling. Afterwards, I flopped over for the after-sex cuddle. I enjoyed the oxytocin burst and, like a typical guy, fell asleep. When I woke up, I looked over at her and she was fake Kendra. And she was teary-eyed. I freaked out that my senses were playing this real Kendra fake Kendra trick on me again, but I was also riding the high of the make-up sex, so I was nice to her. I tried to comfort her, to tell her it would be alright, I even said I loved her. And right before my eyes, fake Kendra transformed into real Kendra. Whoa. I stood up, because now I knew, I was fucked. There was something wrong with me. I just told her, sometimes you look this other person to me. I think there's something wrong with my brain. She just nodded, because she understood? No, more than that. Yeah, she said, sometimes you look like him, too. I blinked. Like him? Who is him? Wait, she's having this happen to her, too? Who? I asked, excitedly, finally, a clue. Maybe I wasn't alone in this? Maybe I could have helped figuring it out. Who do you see? Who do I look like? But she just waved it off. No, I can't do this anymore. But we can figure it out. I begged. There's gotta be an explanation. She seemed to consider that and nodded. Hey, you wanted to see my license, right? Yes, I did. She said, I'll get it for you. She walked out to the kitchen counter where her purse sat. But she didn't grab her purse. She grabbed the gun. I flinched like my heart stopped beating. I don't want to die. But she didn't shoot me. She raised it to her own forehead. And pulled the trigger. You know in movies when people get shot and they stand there frozen for a second, then dramatically fall over? That's complete bullshit. You get shot in the head, you drop, like a rock. She went down, wham. But she must have flinched when she squeezed the trigger because she didn't get herself square. It kind of glanced off her right temple. But it caught more than enough, blood gushed everywhere. For a second, I thought, run away, I can't be seen here. But I was not that kind of monster or stupid. If I ran away, of course I'd be easily caught, then I'd be in even deeper shit. I desperately tried to stop her bleeding with kitchen towels. There were pieces of skull and brain mixed with blood. I called 911 and followed their instructions. As I awaited the paramedics, I kept looking at her, thinking, she must be a vegetable from this. She was once again fake Kendra, as if, definitively so. I wondered what that meant. I could almost swear she looked like she was, at peace. Like whatever was tormenting her was finally over. At least, I hoped that was the case. The medics wheeled her away, and I'm pretty sure she was still alive, but they didn't tell me. The police arrived, and I told them everything. Too late did I realize, I was a complete moron. You don't lie to the police, but there was no reason to blab without a lawyer. Not that I even had a criminal lawyer. We went to the police station, where I quickly scrounged myself up a lawyer. He showed up and I told him the whole story, everything, of course, except the changing faces. How would I explain that? He said to tell the police, and I did. The detectives listened, talked some more to my lawyer, and, hours later, said I was free to go. I hadn't done anything wrong or illegal, just incredibly hurtful and stupid. My lawyer was confident the physical evidence would back up my story. There'd be powder burns on her hands, not mine, and they can tell things from the direction of the gunshot. Being the witness suspect in a Law Order episode for an evening was not my idea of a good time. But now that I had survived my mistress shooting herself in the head, I had to face the even more daunting challenge: how to break it to Amanda. Continued in Part 3. Incredible. What a rush. I don't want you to bury this fresh start with another wave of denial.